It's time to catch up with Dudley Dawson from Hawgs Illustrated, WholeHogSports.com. Get some recruiting info for you here on Ruscin Zach because we don't know anything about it, and Dudley knows a lot about it. So we're going to talk to him. Hey, Dudley, good afternoon.
How are you guys?
We're doing good.
So 79 degrees in here, Dudley.
Oh.
Yeah, I was in there Monday, and the fan nearly knocked me over. But yeah, it was a little bit oppressive.
That's right. Yeah. So let's recap the weekend and football visits, all this stuff, commitments. Give us some of the high points here.
Well, the big thing I think over the weekend, and it was kind of expected, but he played the game for a while. Maumelle defensive tackle Nico Davalier, 6'5", 275, committed to Arkansas. He had taken official visits to Oklahoma and Nebraska. Also had offers from Georgia, Penn State, a lot of other schools that are all in the market for a defensive tackle. But Arkansas kept him in state, and that's a big deal when you get a defensive tackle in state and everybody else views him as pretty good. You need to land him, and that gives them 8 out of the 12 they've offered. They're not going to get the two Fayetteville kids, obviously. I believe they'll get Jalen White, the kid from Little Rock Parkview, that was the latest offer, and then Chaz Nimrod. I'm not sure, Bentonville, not sure what he's going to do, but I think they're in good shape to get 9 of the 12. Which, if you started out, you would have said that's pretty good, especially because you've got the 3 best linemen that you had in the state on both offense and defense.
They're 19th nationally in the recruiting rankings, and we all understand that doesn't mean anything until signing day. But, I mean, getting a guy, you said he's 6'4", he's 275, he's a defensive tackle. Is this a guy that grows into a 300-pounder? Their biggest need on the defensive line is probably outside. Is this a guy that might be able to help them, on the edges?
I don't think so. I think he's more of a defensive tackle. He's got the frame to put on another 25, 30 pounds, and then I think that's what they expect. He loves being down inside. You want to get those guys who do that. You don't want to get the guys just kind of like a center in basketball. You don't want one that wants to go out and shoot threes. You want a defensive tackle who wants to get in there and knock heads around, and I think that's what this guy, is all about. And so I think he'll play inside. Yes, they'll continue to search for the right type of defensive ends. I do think the kid I mentioned, Jalen White, has an opportunity to be both the linebacker and an edge rusher and get to the quarterback.
So you've covered a lot of these coaches as they've come through here on the recruiting front. What is Sam Pittman and his staff, what are they doing that's connecting with the in-state kids that other people weren't doing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that most of these kids see Coach Pittman as a football guy, not a mathematician or something else. They believe in what he's trying to do. Yes, Arkansas has a long way to go to get to where Grant was asking me the other day what Arkansas's coaches thought about the 12-team playoff. I said they're so far away from that they don't give it any thought. Once they get better, maybe they can think about it. But I do think that the relationship part of the coaches that he has now has been really good. But I think most of all, Coach Pittman gets in here. They believe he's a real guy. He talks about football. He talks about what he wants to do with football. He doesn't go through any of the BS. Yes, he can be a relationship guy if he needs to. But mostly he gives them a vision of what he wants the football program to be. And he fully realizes that they're not where they want to be. And he doesn't try to oversell or undersell things.
I want to ask you a little bit about, you mentioned Isaiah Sategna, the wide receiver out of Fayetteville, and both Derek and I have seen him in person. He's obviously, he's one of the fastest players I've ever seen, but, weird departure from, he was committed to Texas 100%, then he pulls back, and it would appear now that he's heading towards Oregon. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, he put out a tweet yesterday that it would be Oregon or USC, that he was down to those two. Both obviously have great track programs as well. If I was, betting on it, I'd take a guess that it'd be Oregon, because he did take an official visit out there right a few days before he committed to Texas A&M. It's a strange situation, but he seems like a good kid, and from everything going on, I think he'll have a successful career. I do think maybe he's a track guy playing football, but there have been a lot of track guys playing football who have succeeded, and we know that you, unless you get to the Olympics and all that, you make far more money in football than you can running track.
Now, he's an undersized guy. I mean, they list him at 5'11", 170. I've been on the field standing next to him. I question both of those numbers. I mean, does that play into this? Because I know Kendall Browns likes the bigger receivers. It might be an odd fit for him.
Yeah, and they brought him in on an unofficial visit, and I think they, when they offered him, they really wanted him, and but I think for whatever reason they drifted apart. I think it's a mutual thing. Obviously, his dad was a assistant track coach at the university. He's not doing that anymore, and he told me the other day that his dad wants to get back in high school and go from that output instead of going to back to colleges. But I mean, one of the best players in Arkansas. There's no doubt about that. They're at least potential best players, collegiate prospects. But it seems he's going to be headed somewhere else. And I think from being around this area, a lot of these Fayetteville kids like to get away. Both of mine that I was at conception for. Both went to school elsewhere. So they get tired of Fayetteville, I think, sometimes.
Talking with Dudley Dawson here on Ruscin and Zach. What, if anything, are you hearing on the university side about how all this name, image, and likeness stuff is going to shake out, and whom might be a contender for, I guess, the first endorsement or two over there?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, and I've talked with a few people over there a little bit about it, and they're kind of guardedly optimistic and also worried a little bit. I mean, they haven't had anybody like the Mississippi defensive tackle who announced he would be open for business on July 1st. And he sent out a tweet that anybody that he wanted to use his likeness or whatever, he'd be open for business. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it. I do think this is much to ado about nothing, because if you've been paying players under the table, you're going to do it over the table now. You're still probably going to pay them under the table. It is a good thing for athletes because they can have some rights there. But again, y'all both know that if you're a really good football player at a really good football program, that you want for nothing.
I've been banging the drum. They need defensive ends and they need tight ends. They've got one tight end in this class in Dax Courtney. There's a big one in the 23 class, a kid out of Ashdown. Is that somebody that they have targeted? I know you got to finish up 22, but a 4-star tight end in your home state at a position you desperately need. Is this a guy that's on their radar?
Yeah, absolutely. Shamar Easter was offered by the Arkansas staff when he was in the 9th grade. He'll be a junior this upcoming year. He was up here last Saturday, I believe it was. And him and Coach Pittman had a roaring time talking about that they both went to the same church camp. So you never know how you're going to bond with these kids. But he is an excellent prospect. Somebody, yes, that you have to get. I think they'll add Tyus Washington, who's the tight end from Georgia, to the one they have right now. But I do think that you're right. It's very important for them to get tight ends and defensive ends, and not only number of placeholders, but ones that can affect the defense. And I'll tell you, I've been around Barry Odom a little bit here lately, and I think he's excited. He's not going to tell you that they're going to win a bunch of games or anything, but he's excited about the pieces that he's put together and what he may be able to do with some of those older guys that he used to coach at Missouri and some of the younger guys he got in that really are better than some of the older guys.
No. Just for people who don't understand, I mean, he's a 4-star athlete. He's a top 100 player nationally. He's a top 5 tight end nationally. This is. Yeah. I mean, you hate to say must get, but that's a must get for them.
Yeah, it's as close to a must get as you can. I mean, because again, 2022 is a great year in terms of coaches around here for football, basketball, baseball, in terms of recruits. It's not as great in the upcoming classes after that or the latter classes, but that's a guy, and there's a few of them. I think they've offered 3 2024 guys and 7 2023 guys. It is not a wealth of prospects like it is in this class, so you've got to make sure you do your best. The old saying, put the fence around there, that's a bunch of BS. There's no fence anywhere, but you got to do as best you can in getting some of these guys.
Dudley Dudley Dawson's with us here on Ruscin and Zach. It's about 9 weeks or so till the season. Is it too early to get a thought or two on this 2021 football team and what it's going to look like?
The only thing I've got is that they've had football camps the last couple of weeks, and when you go over there to cover football camp, you always see the current team working out in the morning. It's 7 and 8, and they're in great shape. I mean, I don't know how many they're going to win on the football field. I know y'all were talking about yesterday that there's some games that that's not going to happen. You got some you can get, and some that you better win. But I do think that they will look much better getting off the bus. That means nothing, but it's at least the guys that you expect to have big seasons or must have big seasons for Arkansas to win, including KJ Jefferson looks like an NFL quarterback body now. I mean, it's amazing to me what he's done just from the end of spring till now. Whether he can, translate that into wins on the football field, we'll see. But I do think that of the many things that went wrong in the Morris era, they are getting kids and getting these players into the type of bodies, weights, and stuff like that you're supposed to have to play in the SEC, not be some gimmicky, let's have our offensive linemen be 275 if they can't get out and pass block.
I never miss an opportunity to take a shot at your Cardinals. Good weekend for them, dropping 3 or 4 to the Pirates. Thoroughly enjoyed that while my Red Sox were sweeping the Yankees. Andy Hodges wrote a thing ranking the coaches since Broyles.
What does that have to do with anything?
Absolutely nothing.
It's an unnecessary shot.
I also beat Dudley in fantasy baseball last week, so it hasn't been a good week for Mr. Dawson.
It'll be 2 weeks ago because I beat somebody 7-3 this week.
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, you can beat other people. You just can't beat me.
Hey, you beat yourself enough,
That's fair. Well, Andy ranked the coaches since Broyles, and we've kind of narrowed it down to 4. And I just want to get your kind of opinion on this because you've been there for most of it. Holtz, Nutt, Petrino, and I'm blanking on the last one. Hatfield. If you were going to rank those in terms of coaches, how would you rank them?
Still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hatfield would be number 1 in terms of just the coach and what he had to work with for me. Holtz would probably be number 2. Petrino 3. If he had been here longer, I think they would have, obviously, would have elevated him even more. And he had a lot of great years, but we all know the other things. And then Houston certainly had more success than a lot of these coaches have in SEC. But if you just wanted me to rank them X's and O's, there you go. And I'm not talking about X's and O's that you put at the bottom of the letter, which they apparently did a lot of as well.
Okay. Okay. Dudley Dawson with us here from Hawgs Illustrated and WholeHogSports.com. Thank you, Dudley. We appreciate it.
You bet.